Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Akaite Afia. Drug manufacturing company Moderna is filing for U.S. and European regulatory approval of its coronavirus vaccine so that it can be recommended for widespread use. Regulators will look at trial data for the mRNA vaccine and decide if it is safe and effective enough to recommend for rollout. Clinical studies show the jab is more than 94% effective at protecting people from becoming ill with COVID-19. Pfizer, which has a similar jab, has already filed for the same U.S. approval. UK regulators are also revealing data on the Pfizer vaccine, as well as another type of COVID vaccine from AstraZeneca and Oxford University for emergency approval. Moderna says it hopes to gain UK approval soon, now that it has trial data from 30,000 volunteers, including high-risk groups like the elderly that suggest it works. Meanwhile, top scientist and disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci has warned that the U.S. could see surge upon surge of coronavirus cases as people return home from the Thanksgiving holiday. However, he adds that it is not too late for those yet to travel to help curb the virus by wearing masks and socially distancing. Thanksgiving typically heralds the busiest week for travel in the U.S. The U.S. has recorded more than 13 million coronavirus cases and more than 266,000 people have died.
United States Thanksgiving weekend was met with long lines for COVID-19 testing and cautious travelers. The exponential increase in travel and large group gatherings is predicted to impact potential virus spread. Dr. Anthony Fauci predicts a doubling of coronavirus cases due to spread that may have occurred during the holiday weekend.
We're seeing the surge with an inflection curve like this. The concern we had as we entered into the Thanksgiving holiday and as we're now coming out of the Thanksgiving holiday is that the travel and the people congregating at dinners that you'd expect, we try to get the word out for people, as difficult as it is to really not have large gatherings of people, family and friends, but try to keep it confined to the immediate household. But people are not always going to do that. So what we expect, unfortunately, as we go for the next couple of weeks into December, that we might see a surge superimposed upon that surge that we're already in.
While hospitals are reaching capacity and the U.S. reached a record high of 93,000 hospitalizations in one day, Minority Leader in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, urges his colleagues to pass a COVID-19 relief bill.
A successful COVID rollout will require about $30 billion in federal funds to make sure the vaccine gets into people's arms.
The U.S. is headed toward a long road of recovery from the pandemic as Sunday marked the 27th day in a row that U.S. reported more than 100,000 new COVID-19 cases.
Our Washington correspondent joins us now live for more updates on this story. Maria, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So how are people reacting to this warning from Dr. Fauci?
Well, I think many people knew. Unfortunately, I think many Americans were willing to take the risk. They knew what this potentially meant for the lives of many Americans and even their own lives, and the health risks that they were taking with this most recent holiday weekend. But unfortunately, people are really COVID tired. They're getting very, very tired of if you think back, we've been in this position since March. But the greatest challenge is that there has not been real overarching federal mandates to be able to get us to a place where we could see the decrease in the decline in the virus.
Warning have on the Christmas celebration in the United States?
Well, I think you're going to see similar to what you've seen with the Thanksgiving holiday. I think you're going to see people still traveling, still going out, but you're going to see long lines for COVID-19 testing. You're going to see many individuals, going to get tested before they visit relatives and in-laws across the country. You'll probably see a lot more travel or for vacation travel. I think people are very tired and they're looking for a break. And so you're going to see areas that are big hotspots for the U.S., the Bahamas, Mexico, which you're going to see a lot of travelers going there. You probably, hopefully, will see somewhat of a decline in the number of gatherings inside homes because many states are beginning to put out mandates now where you can't gather more than 10 individuals within one home at a time. So hopefully that will help to address some of the inside gathering. Because as Dr. Fauci said, as we enter the colder months, the likelihood of the spread being even worse becomes much higher frequency than we've seen in the summer and fall months.
Well, Maria, earlier you did mention government mandates and there being a lack of those. So there are reports that the president is still coming to terms with his election defeat. So he's not offering much leadership on curbing the pandemic at the moment. How true is this?
Yes, well, the president has not come out very strong regarding what should be done federally as it relates to COVID-19. He's had very little comments regarding the spikes that we've seen in almost every state across the United States. He has not really said much other than we know that he had a recount done in Wisconsin here just a few days ago, which obviously still came out with very similar results as President-elect Joe Biden winning that state as well. And so you're not seeing very much of information coming out of the White House. We're pretty confident that we will not see him concede. He has said he will not obviously be in the White House on Inauguration Day if in fact President-elect Biden does enter the White House on that day. But we're very unlikely to see him concede and very unlikely that we will see any real federal mandates regarding the COVID-19 escalation across the country.
And Maria, just finally here, what new measure do you expect the incoming Biden administration to bring to the table as it regards the handling of the pandemic?
Well, the Biden administration, unfortunately, as things are looking now, unless we are able to receive some funding to really push out the coronavirus vaccine quickly, the Biden administration will probably have no choice but to put more federal mandates. I mean, I know that the U.S. is watching what's happened in Europe. They're watching the fact that the lockdown actually created a great decline in the number of coronavirus cases and obviously the spread across Europe. And so I think they're watching that to see if that might be a potential option for the U.S. Come January when the new administration comes in play. But again, I think that they're hopeful that Americans begin to not have coronavirus fatigue, but continue to wear masks and continue to find ways to social distance and to not have large gatherings of individuals.
All right. Well, Maria, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
South Africa is bracing for a second wave in COVID infections as some provinces have been recording high numbers in the past few days. The health department announced on Sunday that the country recorded 2,563 new cases of the novel coronavirus, bringing the total number of cases to 787,702. The death toll has also risen above 21,000. While speaking to the media, the health minister, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, said recent figures from the Eastern and Western Cape provinces are worrisome, but the way to tackle it has not been finalized.
General has shown rising numbers. Nelson Mandela Bay specifically seems to be the hotspot, but in addition, we've seen a lot of other activities in the area of Sarah Parkman and Buffalo City. We may also say that the increasing numbers are not only seen in the Eastern Cape. We have been monitoring for the past few weeks the Western Cape, as well as we are monitoring all the provinces. The Western Cape, the numbers have started increasing to the extent that during the surge, Gauteng had the highest number, followed by KwaZulu-Natal, and then Eastern Cape, and then Western Cape was after that. At this point, the numbers are such that the Western Cape numbers are even higher now than the KwaZulu-Natal, which begins to indicate that we have actually got a resurgence in both provinces at this point. No decision has been taken about putting Nelson Mandela Bay to level 3. We are looking at what needs to be done in terms of restrictions that will help to support health facilities, as well as also reinforce the message in the community And so we will be able to announce that once that decision has been taken.
Still on the pandemic, Russia has reported 26,338 new coronavirus cases, including 6,511 in Moscow and 3,691 in St. Petersburg. This takes the national total to over 2.2 million cases since the pandemic began. Here's more on this and other stories in our global COVID-19 update.
Authorities in Moscow on Monday reported 368 deaths in the last 24 hours. Pushing the official death toll to 39,895 in the capital city alone. Moscow remains the center of the pandemic in Russia and is one of the worst hit cities by the pandemic. According to the official data, the total number of infection cases in the city is 605,724. In Spain, thousands of medical workers marched through the center of the capital city, Madrid, protesting the gradual privatization of the healthcare system. Protesters say the country's public health services need to be protected amid the coronavirus outbreak. Now, almost every week, the healthcare workers keep marching and protesting, but the demonstrations have only made a limited impact.
The government is not acting. They won't bother to take action because of one march or 10 marches. They need us to tell them that we have seen enough of this situation, and I think our protest has been very powerful and convincing.
In Asia, at least 8 prisoners were killed and over 50 others were injured from clashes at a prison in Sri Lanka. Unrest had been growing in some of Sri Lanka's prisons, with inmates staging protests against police in recent weeks as they demanded an increase in coronavirus testing and new isolation facilities for infected prisoners. The latest clashes at Mahara Prison, about 15 kilometers north of the capital city, Colombo, when some inmates protested against prisoners infected by the pandemic virus being transferred from other prisons to the same jail campus. Finally, town leaders in Bethlehem say that the traditional birthplace of Jesus will go ahead with its Christmas celebrations, albeit without crowds.
Every year, the whole world looks towards Bethlehem because it is the birthplace of our Lord Jesus. Unfortunately, this year is different from all other years. Last year, we celebrated Christmas with tens of thousands of tourists coming from all over the world, with Palestinians coming from all Palestinian cities. The spirit was a spirit of happiness and of hope. Unfortunately, this year is very much different. It's not like all other years, and it's not only in Palestine. The pandemic affected the whole world.
In the meantime, most of the inns are closed. The shepherds are as likely to be under lockdown as their sheep, and there are no visitors from the east or anywhere else.
A French judge has placed 4 police officers under criminal investigation over the beating of a black music producer at his studio in Paris earlier this month. Video of the white officers attacking producer Michel Zecler emerged last week, causing widespread outrage. Reports say the 4 suspects are facing charges of intentional violence by a person holding authority. 2 of the police officers have also been remanded in custody. The decision to open a formal investigation comes amid growing concern over police violence in France. Australia has demanded an apology from China after the Asian country posted a fake picture on a government Twitter account that depicted an Australian soldier murdering an Afghan child. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says Beijing should be utterly ashamed for sharing the repugnant image. This comes amid escalating political tensions between the 2 countries. The image referred to alleged war crimes by some Australian soldiers.
Australia is seeking an apology from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the Chinese government for this outrageous post. We are also seeking its removal immediately, and have also contacted Twitter to take it down immediately. It is a false image and a terrible slur on our great defence forces and the men and women who've served in that uniform for over 100 years.
Meanwhile, China has urged Australia to apologize to Afghanistan for war crimes committed by Australian soldiers. It has also called for a thorough investigation to bring those responsible to justice. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying made the comment when responding to Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison's demand for an official apology from China after Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian published a cartoon on his personal Twitter condemning the Australian Army's atrocities in Afghanistan. Iran has held a funeral for its top nuclear scientist, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, who was assassinated on Friday in an attack that it has blamed on Israel. Defense Minister Amir Hatami vowed in a speech to avenge Fakhrizadeh's death and continue his path vigorously. Another official said those behind the killing had used electronic equipment and had not been present at the scene. Israel has not commented on the claims, but it believed Fakhrizadeh oversaw a secret nuclear weapons program, which Iran insists is entirely peaceful. New Zealand's workplace regulator has filed charges against 13 parties following an investigation into a volcanic eruption on White Island in 2019, which killed 22 people. Worksafe, New Zealand's primary regulator for workplace-related incidents, said in a news conference that its investigation found 13 parties had not met their health and safety obligations in taking the tourists to the White Island. A surprise eruption on the White Island, also known by its Maori name of Wakari, on December 9th last year, killed 22 people and injured dozens. Majority of them were tourists from countries like Australia, the United States, and Malaysia.
After the largest and most complex investigation Worksafe has ever undertaken, we have concluded that 13 parties did not meet their obligations and should face charges in court. Today, my team has filed charges in Auckland District Council against 10 organisations and 3 individuals under the Health and Safety at Work Act. The 10 organisations are each charged that they failed to do what was reasonably practicable to ensure the health and safety of workers, and in this case, visitors. If convicted, these organisations could each face a maximum fine of $1.5 million. The 3 individuals each face a single charge that as officers of the company, they failed to exercise due diligence in ensuring that the organisation was meeting its health and safety obligations. If convicted, these individuals could each face a maximum fine of $300,000.
The leader of the Tigray's People's Liberation Front, TPLF, in Ethiopia's Tigray region, Debretsion Gebremichael, says his troops are still fighting against the military near the city of Mekelle, which was seized by government troops over the weekend. The TPLF also says it has retaken Axum City, but the federal government has denied this. The government also says the conflict will not end until all the leaders of the TPLF are apprehended.
Each and every one of them are apprehended, or until their rank and file would be desperate and lose hope that there is no case to fight, then they may keep on feeding that they would be hell-bent on to keep on fighting, but reality doesn't allow that. With regards to casualties, it's not yet counted at all, particularly the casualties which were inflicted by the TPLF side. The first casualty we know was our soldiers, Northern Command. The second casualties again was from both sides, where the reinforcement force has to join to rescue the Northern Command members when they heard about the stress calls. That was from both sides, from the militia and the special force of the TPLF, and also from our Northern Command. and also Amara Special Forces who came to rescue the ones who were already subdued.
Meanwhile, the head of the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, Filippo Grandi, says he hopes humanitarian access to Ethiopia's northern Tigray region would be granted soon by the Ethiopian authorities. Thousands of people are believed to have been killed, and nearly 44,000 have fled to Sudan since the fighting in Tigray began on November 4th. Mr. Grandi adds that the UNHCR has appealed to donors for $147 million, which would be enough to cover the needs of 100,000 people for a period of 6 months.
There's about 44,000 refugees that have arrived in the last few weeks. And although the pace has slowed down, there's still several hundred per day that are crossing the border. Yesterday, for example, the figure was approximately 800, the day before between 500 and 600. I'm also very worried about the situation inside Ethiopia on two accounts in particular. One, which I share with other humanitarian organizations. We still have no access to all the people that we used to assist before and to people freshly displaced by the fighting. And I want to renew here the appeal that we humanitarians have made to the federal authorities of Ethiopia to grant us that access because people are in need and we need to collect information and to provide assistance to them.
And finally on the program, with traditional Christmas markets banned and restaurants closed under Germany's second partial lockdown, one enterprising restaurant owner has opened a drive-through Christmas market to keep his staff busy and his customers happy. Visitors order from a menu and pay at the entrance before driving slowly from stall to stall, picking up mulled wine into takeaway cups, hot crepes, and other Christmas treats. Around 160 million visitors usually descend on Germany's 2,500 Christmas markets each year to sip mulled wine among wooden huts. But Germany recently extended a second partial lockdown until at least December 20th, and the restrictions will likely be extended and continue throughout the winter. Well, that is all for the program today. Thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Akaite Afia. Have a great evening and stay safe.